Welcome everybody to the sixth class in this Atma Bodha study. So far we have completed the following topics. So we've seen the introduction part where Shankaracharya says the study and the qualifications for practice. Then we've seen this issue with the superposition. So the way Shankaracharya addresses this entire problem, our samsara, it's called the samsara, our daily struggles, our frustrations. In between, there's some happiness, but again, there's peaks and valleys. So it's ups and downs in life. And that is because of the wrong understanding. And the understanding of our true nature versus what we think it is. So because we superimpose our true nature on other things, we suffer. So this is the general theme in this portion. So it's called adhyasaha, the superimposition. And the superimposition is not just one way. It is called anyonya adhyasaha. It is anya adhyasaha. That is, anya means other and other. Other and other becomes mutual superimposition. I superimpose myself as the universe, and the universe superimposes its stuff onto me. When I say the universe, it means the elements, the earth, fire, all those elements, which are considered to be the constituent elements in yoga and Vedanta. So there, they superimpose their nature. So what are these elements? This is the gross body. And there is also a subtle body made up of subtle 5 elements. So the 5 elements are the earth, space, fire, water, all these things from the elements. So that is the superimposition. Then we talk about the upadhis. What are the things that get superimposed and give their attributes? The classic example of upadhi is a pure crystal. That's like the atma. And when you bring it close to a fire, then a flower, it takes the color of the flower. The flower is a red flower, then it takes the color of the red flower. Okay. All right. So that is called a upadhi, or a conditioner. Then we went on to the solution to the superimposition. That is Atma Anatma Vivekam, the discrimination, to discriminate between what is conscious and what is not conscious. So by eliminating, by saying neti, neti, you come to that your true self. You eliminate the body, the mind, everything. So that is what we have studied. And then we have entered this portion of the classic, how do you go about this process of acquiring this knowledge? It is called Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. This is what we saw last time. And we are at the end of this portion. So, as usual, we would like to acknowledge Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati for the traditional rendering of Vedanta as it was done for over 1,000 years, starting with Adi Shankaracharya. We'll say a small prayer. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarampam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Partyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Salutations to the lineage starting with Lord Sadashiva, with Adi Shankaracharya in the middle, and continuing up to our immediate teacher, Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati. So let's go to where we were last time. So we saw we are at the end of this. So by the constant practice of Nididhyasanam, it creates an impression, a vasana. So the vasana, Brahman iva asmi iti vasana. I am the Brahman. So this the vasana is the imprint created by constant practice of Nididhyasanam, which is Vedantic meditation. It removes ignorance and mental agitations. Harati Vidya vikshepan, mental agitation, just as rasayana, medicine, destroys disease. So this knowledge removes the ignorance. So, and then Shankaracharya is going to say how to go about instructions for nididhyasanam mentioned in 38 and 39. So this is where we left. Before that, okay. So let's see the shloka. Vivikta desha asinaha viragho vijitendriyaha bhavayedekam atmanam tamanantamananyadhi. Okay, so what does this say? So here it says sitting in a solitary place. So that is a very important thing in the yoga text, because with a lot of people and commotion, mind tends to go out. So you have to rein it inward. So vivikta desha asina. Asina means seated. Vivikta desha means in a solitary place without much distractions, in a quiet place. Viragaha. Viragaha means free. Raga means craving. So viragaha means freeing the mind from all kinds of desires of the mind. Viragaha. Vijita indriyaha. So vijita indriyaha means gaining control over the indriyas or the senses. Vijita means to conquer. Vijita indriya means controlling, bringing the senses under control. So sitting in a solitary place, freeing the mind from desires, controlling the senses. Bhavayet. Bhavana means meditation. Bhavayet ekam atmanam. Meditate on that Atma which is one without a second. That one Atma, ekam Atmanam, the one and only Atma. Tamananyadi. Tam anantam ananyadhi. This word, it's a compound word. So it has to be split as tam means that, anantam means infinite, boundless being, anantam, ananyadi. So meditate with unswerving attention on that Atma, which is one without a second. It is infinite. Anantam means the boundless being, which is one without a second. Okay. Now I have to bring in one point. That is, what is the difference between yogic and Vedantic meditation? The yogic meditation is called upasana. It is bringing the mind to one-pointed focus. Once the mind has attained stability, you can wield it like a torchlight. Like we saw the example of the mirror in the room. Do you remember the example? So previously we saw the example of the mirror. Somewhere we saw the mirror in the room. You can use it to shine light on a lot of things by moving the mirror. And yes, here you see that by moving the mirror you can shine light in a dark room. So like that, the mind has to be wielded. But if the mirror is shaky like that, you can't shine light in one place. That is where meditation comes in. So meditation is to make sure that the mind has attained the stability. So the yogic meditation is called upasana. Once the mind has attained stability, you can do greater things with this. This is what is said in the Yoga Sutras also, the 3rd chapter on the siddhis, where samyama, after you attain dharana, dhyana, samadhi, when the mind is so steady, you can use it to shine on, focus it on the cosmos, anything that you want. That portion is called nididhyasanam. It's called Vedantic meditation, where you start to focus on the nature of your true self by just visualizing you as the Atma spreaded out, like ever. It's more like a feeling that, and on that you meditate on that infinite. So there are many instructions in Vedantic meditation. Shankaracharya is going to give a few examples. So upasana, meditation on objects to settle the mind, done prior to serious study of scriptures like yogic meditation, including samadhi. Then the Vedantic meditation consists of the last step in this jnana yoga. We saw Shravanam, that is a study and listening to scriptures. This is what we saw in the last class. Then Mananam, understanding what one has studied. And finally, Nididhyasanam, which is assimilation or internalization through meditation. Okay. So this is the solitary place. It's mentioned quite a bit in the Bhagavad Gita also. So in the 18th chapter, um, on again, Bhagavan talks about Nididhyasanam, on meditation. There, when he says, Vivikta sevi lagvashi yata vakaya manasaha dhyana yogo paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha, dwelling in a Vivikta deshaha. That's what we saw here also, Vivikta deshaha. So here he says, Vivikta sevi, one dwelling in a secluded place, eating limited amounts of food. It's very important. Too much food will cause tamas in the body. So limited amounts of food to keep the fire strong. Then yata, controlling the speech, not speaking too much. Yata, vak means speech, kaya means body, manasaha, the mind, controlling the speech, the body, and the mind. Dhyana yoga paro nityam, dhyana yoga paro nityam, engaged in meditation always, nityam, always. Vairagyam samupashritaha, taking to dispassion, not getting attached to things in the world. This is how you free the mind and you bring it inward. So these are the instructions. And he repeats this again in the 13th. Bhagavan talks about it throughout the Bhagavad Gita, especially with reaching a pinnacle in the 6th chapter, which is a chapter in the Bhagavad Gita dedicated entirely to yoga, that is to meditation. When we say yoga, so in the modern world, it seems, unfortunately, it seems to be associated with asanas. But when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, when people would talk about yogis, it's not so much about these people who do the asanas, but those who have great control over the prana and have studied the mind. These people are shami or munis, those who have great control over their senses and their body function. So they are called the yogis, not somebody who puts their body in different shapes. So here, in the 13th chapter also, Bhagavan talks about Vivikta Desha Sevitvam. Mai chananya yogena bhaktiravya bicharini Vivikta Desha Sevitvam aratirchana samsati. Vivikta Desha Sevitvam, resorting to a quiet place now and then, avoiding the company of huge crowds other than noble ones. So jana samshadi arati, avoiding the company, because all these things can take the mind outside. You have to be very careful with the kind of people you associate with. This is repeated throughout in the Bhagavad Gita. The energy that can be sucked away from some kind of people. So when you're trying to control the mind, it is very important. Once you control the mind, then you decide what to let in or not. But when you have all your senses open, it's very careful what you let in. So avoiding the company of certain types of people. So now what to do? Once you sit down in meditation, Shankaracharya gives the instructions. So here there are only a couple of verses on Nididhyasanam, but in other commentaries like Viveka Chudamani, he goes in great detail, talks about many ways to do Nididhyasanam. What are the objects of focus? What to think of? All that he says. So here he says, reject the drishyam jagat. So think of, visualize the entire universe. So now when we start visualizing, our mind can wander here and there. But once the mind has steadied, then you visualize the entire universe and reject all that as mithya. Mithya, we remember the word? Can anybody tell what the word mithya means? Very important word. Anyone? Yes, Amy.
Okay, something that seems real as long as it is experienced.
Yes, yes. Mithya is seemingly real, but at a higher level, it is not real. Like a dream or a mirage. All these, remember the three. So, the most important thing you have to learn about in the study of Vedanta is the levels of consciousness. So, the levels of reality. So, the Paramarthika Satyam, the highest absolute reality where there's only consciousness. And then there is the Vyavaharika Satyam. This is also an accepted level. That's our transactions, what we are doing in the waking state. And then there is the Pratibhasika Satyam that includes all the myth, the dreams, mirage, or thinking of a snake as a rope and just going about and trying to get worried. All this is Pratibhasika Satyam because we are creating entire a world in our mind. Oh, there is the snake which has come to bite all of us, all that. So it's a concocted thing. So it is not real, and we know that because we are experiencing the vyavaharika satyam. Then once you realize, oh, this is just a rope. Oh, now I've in that rope I've created a snake. So this is a very important point in Vedanta. Like in Brahman, we have created, remember those, that shadow, the light shadow example. There is only so there is light, and then when we talk of light, you can't avoid talking of darkness. And due to the fluctuation of this, there's light and darkness. When it gets mixed, it creates patterns, and that is what is projected as the entire world. So like that, we know there's the only thing that is existence is the rope. This is the classic example given in Vedanta. On that rope, now you're projecting a snake. The only thing there is the rope. And the snake, what does it do? It creates fears, terror, everything. So remember the snake example that we saw a little before. So we saw the snake example somewhere here. And in the snake example, the okay, let me. So in the mistaking a rope for the snake. So in this example, we it results in fear, and it mistaking it it creates makes us see oneself as the diminutive small jiva, whereas we are the supreme consciousness. That's the true nature. So that is the mithya. The word mithya is used there. Okay, so going back to here, so reject the entire drishyam as mithya. Okay, आत्मन्येवाखिलं दृश्यं प्रविलाप्य धिया सुधी भावयेदेकम् आत्मानं निर्मलाकाशवत्सधा आत्मन्येव akhilam drishyam. The entire world of perception, Atmani eva, should be merged into the self. So the voice should, Diya Sudihi, the word Sudihi is used to represent the wise people, those who have gained the steadiness of the mind. Sudhi means intellect. Okay, Buddhi, that means intellect. So Sudhi means one of good intellect. Who is one of good intellect? The wise person. So Atmani eva akhilam drishyam. The voice should intelligently merge the entire world of objects as a projection. Remember, what is so in the snake? So if there's an analogy, so there's Brahman, and then there's the universe, and then there is a snake and the rope. What is equal to what? Can somebody say? So it's an analogy, right? So there you have the Brahman and the universe. You have the rope and the snake. Can somebody say what is equal to what in this analogy? Anybody? We just now saw that. Amy, Mimi, everybody is quiet. So there is a rope.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mimi, go ahead,
oh,
Mimi.
yeah. I mean, I guess the snake is the rope is reality or is the truth,
Correct.
and then the snake is the illusion.
Correct. So then the rope stands for what? Is it Brahman or the universe?
So the rope is the universe.
Mm,
No,
rope.
Brahman is consciousness, right?
Yeah. So the rope in the analogy. So it's all by analogy. So rope stands for Brahman.
Brahman, the
Yes,
truth.
the rope. That's the truth. That's the rope is only truth. And you project a snake on that. So what is the snake? The snake is the universe. Is it
Okay.
clear? Yeah.
Yes, thank
So,
you.
so like that, the wise should intelligently merge the entire world because it's a projection on the Brahman in the Atman alone, and constantly think of the self as ever uncontaminated by anything as the space. So the problem with us is we inherit the body. The body is, it's very internally, it's very yucky and dirty. So but what it says is space holds everything. It holds like dirty water, and it holds clean water, dirty air, clean air, everything. But is space contaminated? Can anybody say, is space contaminated by dirty air, even though it holds dirty air?
No.
No. Yeah. Space holds everything but is not contaminated. Like that, the Atman, which is existent in the body, it's existent everywhere, the consciousness, like space, but it's also present in this body, even though it comes in contact with all the yucky things in the body and the mind. Mind is even more yucky because all the thoughts, everything, it is never contaminated. So that is the example that's given. The wise Atmanyeva Akhilam Drishyan Pravilapya. Pravilapya means merged by the wise with the um, so should intelligently merge the entire world of objects in Atman alone. Bhavayam Ekam Atmanam, and constantly think of bhavana means meditation. Constantly meditate on the self as ever uncontaminated. Kamatmanam. Nirmalam means, malam means dirt. Nirmalam means one that which is free of dirt, uncontaminated. Nirmala akashavat sada. Sada means always. One should always think of the Atman as uncontaminated. Atma is always uncontaminated. Okay. Um, okay. Um, so another way to see that, so they always give this example. uh, um, what is there? So you have a pot right now. The pot is nothing but clay. So this is an example given throughout Vedanta. Um, we get carried away by all the looks and appearances. So a piece of gold, a lump of gold, let's say, it's nice, it's gold, it's valuable, but doesn't pull your senses away. But when it's made into a beautiful necklace, you say, beautiful necklace, beautiful bangle, beautiful earring, it just pulls our senses away. Like that, there's only even in a beautiful pot, there's only clay. Once you break it and you see the clay, that uh, attraction is lost. It's the same thing. So it is the names and forms that get carry us here and there. So resolve everything into the fundamental universe, and then you're at peace. There's no ups and downs, and you always go to your real nature, which is full bliss. So this is what it's trying to say. Okay. So Nirmala Akashavat, just as space is ever uncontaminated in spite of holding everything, so too is the Atma. Okay, so now we've seen meditation. So the meditation topics ends here. And then we will go on to Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. So 2 topics. But so this is carried, the Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti are the benefits of this Jnana Palam. Jnanam consists of 3 steps: Shravanam, listening; Mananam, making sure you understand everything without error; and then Nididhyasanam, internalizing. So the benefits of this study is the Jnana Palam, benefits of this knowledge is Jivan Mukti, liberation while being alive. So that comes. Now that we've talked about meditation, I wanted to briefly talk about the topic of siddhis, which is kind of like I wouldn't say it's a taboo topic, but it is generally not talked about. It is silently acknowledged, but nobody talks much about it. But the Shastras do mention this, the great, when they're glorifying meditation, they talk about siddhis, all that they do mention, but generally people don't go and elaborate. Even in the Yoga Sutras, these are all mentioned. A huge list of siddhis. The Yoga Sutras, unlike the Bhagavad Gita or other things, Bhagavad Gita is poetry. And this is also a different text. But the Yoga Sutras is like a scientific text. Therefore, in science, you have to expound all the things, right? One of the things that comes from yoga or meditation is siddhis. So the word yoga literally means meditation. I mean, there are some aspects of it which involves asana, pranayama, all that, but yoga is primarily meditation. So these siddhis, they are talked about in the various shastras to a great deal. But the Vedanta, it's a science of self-knowledge, not mysticism. The siddhis can occur, but they're deliberately de-emphasized so the student does not mistake them for the goal. The teachers suppress the mention of siddhis to protect seekers from derailment. In the Yoga Sutras also it's mentioned, it talks about the siddhis. Te samadau upasarga vyuttane siddhayaha. These siddhis in the world of mortal people, they're considered great feats, but in reality, as Patanjali says, they are obstacles to samadhi because they can derail you from the path you're going on. So siddhis exist, they are scripturally acknowledged. Shankara himself in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya concedes that Upasana can produce great, extraordinary power, siddhis. Shankara himself has said to have performed several superhuman feats. Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati, he will always say there is not an iota of mysticism in Vedanta. But yet he would say the Shastras talk about great siddhis. He would often talk about the Ashta siddhis, anima, atom, anu. The word atom comes from anu, which is making oneself very small. Anima is the power to make oneself very small. Laghima, the power to make oneself light. In fact, in the Yoga Sutras, it talks about by control of the prana udana, one can levitate. This is what. So even in asana practice, all this, the arm balances, everything, the way we look at it in yoga practice is through leveraging the udana. When you use the bandhas and you leverage the udana, things become very light. And especially for those who practice yoga in Karandavasana, if the bandha is lost to pull that person up, it becomes like a nightmare. I'm sure Kyongwa would agree with that. Okay. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is all these laghima is the lightness to arise. Anima, mahima is becoming huge. All these siddhis, they are talked about. So Vedanta is not a mystical part of secret techniques that unlock occult powers. It is a pramana or a means of knowledge, like a spectacles revealing something that already is there. In this case, you are that Brahman, but you don't know that. So it is that instrument or a knowledge, means of knowledge through which you gain it. And the methodology is Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Rational, systematic inquiry into one's experience, not a magical or esoteric practice. Goal is freedom from ignorance and not the acquisition of powers. So siddhis exist, and the Advaita texts also talk about lots of siddhis. Okay, so siddhis are not denied, but they are not central to Vedanta teachings. And as we saw, the mind gets fascinated by siddhis, uh, because siddhis, it becomes outward turned, and this becomes a bondage. So desire for siddhis becomes a raga dvesha. Remember, all the while we've been talking about virago, vijitendriya. Viraga means attachment, like craving for something. So the siddhis can start people to crave more and more after them, which keeps samsara alive. That's why when you experience these kind of things in meditation, it's best not to share it with others. Just keep it, unless they're your very close person, somebody who you can confide, but not loosely talk about it with other people. So Shankara says siddhis are as much a bondage as ordinary sense pleasures. They reinforce ego. Then you start thinking, I'm superior. And they are not unique to spirituality too. Janmaushadi mantra tapas samadhi ja siddhayaha. So siddhis come from many other means. Patanjali talks about this. Okay, let's see if I can pull that. So the famous sutra on siddhis. So it says, Janmaushadi mantra tapas samadhi ja siddhayaha. Siddhis are born just by one's birth. Due to their previous karma, they can have siddhis. Aushadi, medicinal herbs. Mantra, chanting. Chanting results in siddhis. Tapas, austerity. So, and meditative absorption. So siddhis can be incidental, not from this practice, and people can also abuse siddhis. Okay, so the end, what I'm trying to say is, moksha is from knowledge alone, not from acquiring powers. Okay, that's why Vedanta reorients the student to stay away from this and not get distracted. Okay. Now we are entering the final phases. So this is Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti as Jnana Phalam. So Jivan Mukti means liberation while being alive. Jivan means life. So Mukti means liberation. Liberation during this life itself. And Videha Mukti is liberation after this life has ended. What happens after this life has ended, and what happens during this life? So these are the two. Mukti means liberation. So if one has gained liberation, how does such a person, Shankaracharya is going to talk about this, how is the enlightened person's outlook toward life is? So, and also once this person life has ended, what will happen? This person is not going to have another birth, because that ignorance in the seed, that is gone. So there's no more ignorance, so there's no more birth. Rupa varnadikam sarvam vihaya paramartavit paripurna chidhananda swarupetna batishtate. Rupa, Varna, Adikam Sarvam, all identification with names, forms, and colors. So one who has realized the supreme, Paramartha Vita is the word that is used. Note this word, we'll come to this later. Paramartha Vita, one means, with means one who has understood. Vidya means knowledge. Vid means one who has understood. Paramartha Vita means one who has realized the self. What does this person do? Vihaya, the person discards Rupa Varnadikam Sarvam, names, forms, colors, etc. What discards? Identification with the names, forms, colors, etc. of various objects, and Thereafter, Paripurna Chidananda Swarupena Avatishtate. Paripurna Chidananda means it is the all full. Paripurna. Purna means full. Paripurna means full from all sides. Pari is all sides. So peri, the word peri also comes from this perimeter. So pari means all sides. Paripurna means the all full. Chidananda Swarupena Avatishtate. Chit means consciousness. Ananda is bliss. So this, the true self, the Atma, is the form of Sat Chit Anandam. That is its nature. Its nature is existence, consciousness, bliss. So here Shankaracharya is using the consciousness and bliss. Paripurna Chidananda Swarupena Avatishtati. Thereafter, that person dwells as an embodiment of the all full, that is not lacking in anything, consciousness and bliss. It doesn't say this person enters that, even though that word is used, what it means is once the person realizes, the person dwells as an embodiment of that all full. Previously also the person was the consciousness, but didn't know that he or she was the consciousness. Swarupam is true nature, embodiment. Avatishtate, dwells. Okay. Okay. So from shloka 40, so we saw shloka 40 till the end of Atma Bodha, the topic discussed is primarily Jivan Mukti. How does this person, what's his attitude? How does this person view life? What are the benefits this person gets? And here and there, it also talks about Videha Mukti, what happens to this person after this death. After once the karma is done, the body falls. Okay, so what is the karma that keeps, because of that you got the body? Remember, we talked about the 3 types of karma: prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, and aghami karma. So what can anybody say, what is the karma that has caused this body? It is prarabdha karma. That is the karma from the past life which has fructified. The karma that is not fructified, which is in a big load, it is the sanchita karma. And agami karma is the one that we are accumulating in this lifetime as we are going. Okay. And who is the Jivan Muktaha? The Jivan Muktaha in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita is considered an essence of entire Vedanta in a beautiful poetic form. In the 2nd chapter, Bhagavan talks about Sthita Prajna. And then the 12th chapter, the same person is called as a Parabhakta. And in the 14th chapter, as a Gunatita, one who has conquered the gunas. Okay, Sthita Prajna means Sthitam, Sthiti means firm, steady. Prajna, wisdom, one of firm, steady wisdom. The mind is so steady. So that person is called Sthita Prajna. From another angle, this person is also a great devotee. So we will talk more about God, even though Atma Bodha doesn't talk about Ishvara, but Tattva Bodha does talk about it. So later we will touch on this Ishvara. I also asked one question in the points to ponder about Ishvara. So at some point we will take up that question. I hope you people have taken a look at the question. Yes, no? That the last question in the points to ponder. It's a very important question. Yeah? Yes, okay. Amy has, okay. And then Parabhakta, a great devotee. So, in fact, I should, wait on the time. Okay. We'll come to these 3 because it's very important. So, the same person can be looked upon as a great devotee and as a person of steady wisdom and as one who has transcended the gunas, one who operates under the sway of gunas, is bound by karma. But once one knows that It is the body and the mind, because of the nature of all the chemical reactions in the mind, boy, everything, the actions come about, but I, the witness, am separate. So this person may also experience anger, but then the person, because of the detachment, the person is quickly able to rein in, and it doesn't, he or she is not carried away by that. Okay, as Mimi was saying, this person becomes a witness to the anger. So once that separation is there, then it wouldn't do much damage. So the word Jivan Mukta is not used in the Bhagavad Gita, but these three terms are used. So we will come to that shortly. Okay. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Yesha Brahmi Sthiti Pata Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati Sthitva Syamanta Kalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. This is so Bhagavan talks about the Sthita Prajna, how to get this wisdom, and he makes this profound statement. Last shloka in the second chapter, this is the state of Brahman, having attained which one is not deluded anymore. There's no return. Once you get there, you've seen it, that's it. You are liberated. Being established in this state, one gains liberation into Brahman even at the time of death. Antakale, at the end, one gets, that's it, after the fall of the body, one is merged into Brahman. There's the body, the subtle body, everything gets dissolved. Even the causal body is dissolved. No more rebirth. So, and he here Bhagavan says, here and now, in this lifetime, you will get liberation. You don't have to wait for 100 more lifetimes or 1,000,000 more lifetimes. Immediately. Okay. Jnatrijnanajneyabhedah parenatmani vidyate chidanandaikarupadvad dhyapyate swayameva hi. The distinctions such as knower, knowledge, and object of knowledge, these do not exist in the Supreme Self, since its nature is only consciousness and bliss. It verily shines by itself. So, jnatra, knower, jnanam, knowledge, jneyam, the object of knowledge. What are you trying to understand? These para atmani na vidyate. These do not exist in the Supreme Self. Bhedaha means distinctions. Okay, they don't exist in the Supreme Self. Chidanandaika rupatvad, because it is of the nature of chit, ananda, consciousness and bliss. It's only consciousness and bliss. These don't exist. Remember the apple sorting machine example. The atma is like the consciousness. The machine itself is inert. Does it do anything? Nothing. When you plug it into electricity, it starts sorting apples. It looks at the image. There's probably some algorithm which says, okay, if it's brown, crushed like this, it compares with images of rotten apples and it throws away things. That's how the mind also works. So the electricity is like the consciousness principle. And can you say the electricity knows how to sort out apples? No. Electricity, so consciousness, provides the ability to sort things when it is reflecting of a suitable medium. Not on a plant, because a plant medium is not advanced enough to do this, but in a human mind, it can do that. Maybe in a chimpanzee's mind also. Okay. Deepyate swayameva hi, it verily shines by itself. Now, so Shankaracharya, every shloka is there for a certain reason. So remember previously I said Paramartha with, one who is with means understood. Paramartha with, one who has understood the Supreme Self. I told you to pay attention to that word. Now, why is Shankaracharya including this shloka? It's for a reason. In this previous shloka, he says the one who has realized Brahman as though it's an object. Paramarthavita, one who has realized Brahman as though it's an object. What does it make one think? It makes one think this Brahman is an object. So the moment the Shankaracharya uses the expression that Jnani knows Brahman, it would mean that Brahman is the object and Jnani is the subject. Knowing is the instrument. And we saw that in slide 122, somewhere before. Yeah. We saw who's the knower and where does knowing take place. So knowing implies change. It cannot happen in the Atma. So Atma does not know. The knowing happens in a combination of the intellect and the reflected consciousness, just like a movie theater. The projection light itself doesn't cause the knowing, but when the film goes through or whatever means of projection, there's all these beautiful images on the theater. That is how a person knowing happens. Okay, it is not by in the consciousness. So that is what Shankaracharya is trying to say here. The knowing does not happen in the so the knowing, so the Atma is not the knower. Knower is the mind powered by the reflected consciousness. Just like you cannot tell the electricity is the knower, the apple sorting machine. So the terms pramata is the knower, the subject which knows. That is, consider example of a pot. So you're looking at a pot. There's a classic example used in Vedanta, so I'm just giving it as such. Can be any such example. Instead of pot, you can replace it with anything else. So the knower, so you, pramata is you, the observer or the knower. Okay. Here you refers to the mind-body complex. Pramana is the instrument, the means of knowing. So here, how do you see know the pot? It is through your eyes. So eyes are the instrument. And prameya, it is the known object that is to be known. So the role in cognition is, in the cognition process, it is the object that is known. And the pramana is the means of knowing, that is the eyes. The object that is known is the pot, ghataha. And prama is the knowledge. It's the correct understanding. Okay, now I know. Correct understanding in your mind is, oh, this is the pot. Okay, so this is how the cognition, the process of cognition happens. So it's very systematically studied. So the entire cognition, it involves these four things always. Okay. This is a very important shloka. Evam atmaranau dhyana matane satatam krute udita bhagati jvala sarva jnanendanam dahet. Now, Shankara is giving the example of Arani Matanam. So, traditionally, how you do light up fire is using this process called Arani Matanam, that is churning. It's a ritualistic churning to light a fire. Fire to do all the homas, the sacrifice, the what is called the yajnas, everything it's done by chanting. So they light a fire, they put ghee, and they chant mantras around that. And these mantras are supposed to have a positive effect on the people around or people for whom it's done. So it has a lower portion, which is the base, and there's a stick which is used to churn. So it is this process called Arani Matanam. Arani is the wooden block. Matanam is the churning. So it has a lower and the upper blocks. So evam means thus. Atma Aranau Dhyana, thus in the Arani, the wooden block of the Atma self, meditation, Matane Satatam Krite, Dhyana is meditation. Satatam Krite, one has, the meditation is done like churning. And Udita Avagati Jwala. Avagati Jwala means, Udita means rising. And what happens? The Avagati means the knowledge or understanding or comprehension. In the fire of the correct understanding that arises, Udita, that arises, Sarva Jnane Dhanam Dahet. Sarva Jnana, all the fuel of ignorance. Sarva Ajnana Indanam Dahet. So Sarva means all. Ajnana Indanam means fuel of ignorance. Dahet is burnt. So in the fire of correct understanding that arises, all the fuel of ignorance is burnt. Indanam is the word that is used. It means fuel. See how powerful words he's using, because ignorance is the fuel for more and more karma. So all that fuel, it can, like all this trees, you kind of clear and do this burning, so that it avoids a forest fire, controlled burning. Like that, knowledge prevents destruction by burning through all this fuel of ignorance. So that is the example. This is considered an important shloka, because knowledge is like the fire that destroys ignorance, which is why in the ancient times so much importance is given to knowledge. And in order to get knowledge, meditation is important. Okay. Arunenev bodhena purvam santamase krute tata abhirbhavedatma swayam shumaniva. The word, beautiful word is used, Aruna. So Aruna here it refers to the reddish glow of the rising sun, reddish glow. So, and it refers to the Lord of the early dawn, which is the rising sun. Arunena eva bodhena, like by the, look at the words, this play on words is so beautiful. Arunena eva, like by the Lord of the early dawn, that is the rising sun. Bodhena, so too by knowledge. Purvan samtamase hrute, like the former, the sun, the former is the rising sun, the latter is knowledge. These two are the analogous ones. Like the rising sun, the knowledge. So these two are analogies here. So all these shlokas, they have analogies. The former, the sun, dispels the dense darkness. Samtamase hrute purvam. Samtamase hrute. Tamas means darkness. Samtamas means total darkness. Like the sun dispelling the total darkness, dense darkness. Hrute dispelling. Tata avirbhaved atma. So, like that, avirbhava means act of disappearing. So, like that, the atma, when it rises, swayameva amshumaneva tata avirbhaved atma, when the atma rises, everything gets, the ignorance is dispelled. When the self rises, and how does it rise? Swayameva amshumaneva. Sun, nobody tells the sun to rise. Sun rises on its own like that. When the self rises of its own accord, then the doubt, ignorance is dispelled. Atma Jnanam has got only one job, which is destroying Ajnanam or ignorance. And we are going to study a very important, so Vedanta is very scientific. Okay, so we are going to study what is called vritti vyapti and pala vyapti. These are all technical terms. We'll study that. So before that, so you understood the example, like the rising sun removes darkness, so too the Atma removes ignorance, and both rising of their own accord. So this is quite loaded. It may sound, we've already seen the rising sun example earlier in one of the earlier shlokas, if you remember. So the rising sun, So Shankaracharya mentions the rising sun earlier also. Let's see where prerequisites. So Shankaracharya, yeah, like Swayam Amshumaniva, he uses the same word. Swayam prakashate hyatma mega payim shumaniva. The Atma shines on its own just like the sun shines when the clouds are removed. So here also he is using a similar example. Now we will understand this process of understanding. Okay, so this is pay careful attention. This is very important. Vritti Vyapti and Pala Vyapti. Vritti Vyapti, Vyaptam means to pervade, permeate. So Vritti Vyapti means permeation by mental modification. And then Pala Vyapti. Pala Vyapti means when the consciousness reflects on this. Vritti is a thought pattern and reveals the object to the knower. So yeah, the Atma, to understand the Atma, you only need Vritti Vyapti. You don't need Pala Vyapti. So this example, one of the examples that's given is when, so for Atma Jnanam, Vritti Vyapti is alone is necessary. Let's say you go into a room of different objects and there are many books there and you're looking for a pot. How do you go about looking for the pot? You discard everything that looks different. So you exactly don't know what kind of a pot it is. Some kind of a pot, it can be small, narrow, or whatever, like a long jug, whatever. Some they've told you some kind of pot. So but it's full of books. It's like a library. So you start looking books. Okay, this I don't know exactly how a pot is, but this is certainly not a pot. It's a book. So reject, reject, reject. So the vritti vyapti is going on. You discard everything. This process of discarding other unwanted objects is called vritti vyapti. So there is this thoughts happening, but then it's just rejection. And then you come to the pot. And then you see, so this is the pot. Now you start looking at the pot. Oh, how nice it looks. It is nice long. It has this beautiful curves. This pot also has a handle to hold it like a pitcher. All that thing. I didn't know it looks this good. So when you are now looking at the pot, you are shining, the reflected consciousness shines, every detail is known. This is called Pala Vyapti. When consciousness reflects on this thought and reveals object. Previously, the thought was reject, 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 reject. Okay, there was just vritti. Now it shines on the vritti and all the details are known. For understanding the Atma, vritti vyapti is the only thing needed. Or all you need to do is to reject the ignorance. Pala vyapti is not needed because it shines on its own. You don't need to go examine, oh, this is a handle, this is a curve, this is the lid. No, it's just self-revealing. Your mind doesn't need to do anything. It's a very, very subtle point. For Atma Jnanam, Vritti Vyapti alone is necessary. Permeation of the Vritti. There is no need to illumine the Atma because Atma is Swayam Prakasha Rupaha. Swayam Prakashate. Like the sun just comes, it's light, so bright, dazzling like that. Atma is known. So Pala Vyapti is not needed. Whereas to know any other objects like a pot, you need both Vyaptis. Okay. Atma Jnanam has two jobs: destruction of ignorance about the pot, illumination of the pot. Whereas, so Anatma Jnanam, so to know anything that is not the Atma. Anatma is anything that is not the Atma. Anatma Jnanam, you need both. It has two jobs: destruction of ignorance about the pot, illumination of the pot. Atma Jnanam has only one job: destruction of ignorance. Okay, so the example from Panchadashi, let's say you have two parts covering two candles. One candle is lit, other candle is not lit. You are in a dark room, right? Now the pot is covering the two candles. One candle is lit, other is not lit. Now when you open the pot over the lit candle, as and when you are opening, the room begins to light up. You don't even need to look at the candle. As you're lifting the pot, suddenly light comes. Okay? Whereas the other case, when you are lifting the pot from the unlit candle, there is no light comes in the room. So you don't need to see the candle and know, oh, there's a you are when you're lifting the pot, the entire room is lit up. You know this is the candle with the which is lit. Okay. Removing the pot is vritti vyapti. Whereas in the second case, the dark candle, you have to shine a light on the candle to illuminate it because it is not lit. So you need both vritti vyapti and phala vyapti. Whereas the lit candle is like the atma. It is just self-shining. Do you see this example? Is it understood? Everybody? It's a very subtle but important point. Atma just needs removal of ignorance, vritti vyapti. Okay? So, one more shloka. Okay, I think I have to do the shloka because it's a continuation of this. Okay, Subhashmita. Atma tu satatam praptah apraptavada vidyaya tannashe praptavat bhati swakhanda bharanam yatha. Beautiful example. Even though the Atma is ever present, Atma tu satatam praptah, always attainable. It's there with us all the time. Aprapta vat avidyaya, it because of ignorance, avidyaya, because of ignorance, it seems aprapta with it seems like it's not realized. Tannashe, on the destruction of this ignorance, praptavat bhati, Atma seems like, it's attained, praptavat bhati. It seems like it is newly attained, like the missing ornament on one's own neck. Beautiful example. Person is looking for this ornament. Where did I keep this? Sometimes we have we have something in our pocket, but we keep searching for it everywhere. Like we have a cell phone in our bag we are carrying, but we are looking for it everywhere. Where is my phone? Like that. Atma, then, oh, it's here. It's like you newly found it, but it's been there with us all the time. Okay. So that is, it's a continuation of the previous. It's always there. All we have to do is remove the ignorance. With that, we will stop the recording.